everyone, it's your girl Jaymie and your favorite astrologer. Today I want to talk about what the fuck your rising sign is. And this is part of my WTF series where I break down some of the fundamental parts of your chart. Your rising sign is a really important fundamental part of your chart because it determines the arrangement and the order of the rest of your zodiac signs and your house placements and stuff. This is like your major starting point. So your sun sign is determined by the month and day. Your moon is also determined by that as well, but your rising sign is determined by the exact time of your birth. It's determined by where the zodiac sign that was on the eastern horizon was exactly when you were born. And so your rising sign, or your also known as your ascendant sign, is in your first house. Whatever sign you have there, that's your rising sign. And because this is when you first came into the world, this is the most material part of your chart, and it tells you about you, your physical body, your energy level, and it reveals the most important part about your rising sign is that it teaches you the best way for you to navigate your life. It tells you the karmic lessons, the purpose of your incarnation, what you're meant to do. It tells you like I said, the best way for you to navigate your life and how to basically move about in the world. And this is really the best way to take advantage of this part of your chart. There are other ways to take advantage of it, but really understanding what works best for you is going to be so vitally pivotal, because in every incarnation, we're meant to have specific experiences, and it's in order for the purpose of our soul's evolution. And so whatever rising sign you have here tells you the best way for you to navigate your life. And this is so important for you to know in order to live a successful, sustainable life that's designed and meant for you. Because we live in a world that's really systematic, and it tells you this is the best way to live your life. This is the way to be successful. This is what makes sense. And if it's not compatible for you, then it just doesn't work. So this is where your rising sign is so absolutely important. It also tells you the environment and the factors that help you to initiate and get started. So if you're someone who's been feeling unmotivated and you don't know like why you can't just get started, understanding your rising sign, the elements, any planets involved, any planets that impact this area of your life, tells you the best way for you to get started. And this is largely determined by the elements and the signs here. So the first thing I would say is, once you identify what your rising sign is in your first house, you want to take a look at the element. Okay, so you've got fire, earth, air, or water. And each of these elements have specific experiences that you're meant to have. Now, if you have different planets that are changing the energy and stuff, then it's not going to be as easy to access this. And that's also something I want to address, is that some people don't resonate with their rising sign and they kind of question their birth time or the validity of it. But it's sometimes, depending on how your chart is arranged, you don't have immediate access to it. You don't have this instant connection. It's like when you first meet someone, sometimes you click right away, and other times it takes a little bit of time. But your rising sign, the sign that's there, the element, it tells you a story of this is what you're meant to master. It's just whether how easy or how difficult it is determined by other factors. So say, for example, you have a fire sign in your rising sign. Then these are people who are supposed to just take action. This is very much, I call it like the fuck around and find out kind of a placement. And it's really about when you feel led to do something, just do it. And oftentimes, because you're not an earth sign, you're not an air sign, you're not supposed to necessarily think things through and be logical or sort of pace yourself like a water sign. A lot of fire signs will get pushbacks from the rest of the world. That's like, you're being impulsive. How could you be so careless? What the fuck are you thinking? And it's not to say, when I say fuck around and find out vibes, like, don't go out of your way to do things that are dangerous and harmful to you and others. Like, that's not the point. But you're meant to follow your impulses and your instincts. And this is so important because every element teaches you something. And so, like, maybe in your previous incarnation, you've been a water sign and you've learned wisdom and kind of pacing yourself instead of just jumping into things. And now you're just here to just be impulsive and reckless, because when you do that, you're more likely to make more mistakes, which is part of your calling. and stuff. It's not for you. It's not about doing things correctly. You're not a Virgo. That's not necessarily your journey. But it's so important in your soul's evolution, if you are a fire rising sign, to take risks, because the more you do that, you develop resilience and you develop this confidence and this bravado and this inner strength and stuff. And that's so absolutely important. And so the more you do this and you do it impulsively and you don't think things through, then you're likely to be reckless unless you have other indicators in your chart, and you're likely to push up and make a lot of mistakes. But that's okay, because again, you're meant to have these experiences. And if you notice, a lot of fire signs, they'll make a lot of mistakes and they'll kind of fuck up and they'll do all these crazy things and they get burned because of it, but their recovery time is a lot faster because they're not meant to slow down. That's not your journey necessarily. So, I mean, it doesn't mean, that's the only thing that you're meant to do. There are other things in your chart. We have every zodiac sign, every element in our chart. But when it comes to what motivates you, the environment, the circumstance to take action, when you feel a drive and a desire to do it, fucking do it. That's your journey. And don't let the doubt and the projections and the standards of other people hold you back, because that's not what you're meant to do. That's not your soul's purpose. And also, if you're hesitating because of the feedback that you're getting, that's not going to be sustainable for you. And that can also result in potentially frustration, anger issues, because you need to burn that energy off and it's just festering because you're internalizing it. And that's not the energy that fire signs are meant to experience. Now, of course, this is a general reading, so this isn't going to apply to everyone. You'll know right away whether this applies to you or not. And even looking at your chart natally, there's other considerations like your progress chart, your solar return chart, the transits and stuff. But understanding this foundational baseline is going to be really valuable for you. And then now let's take a look at with earth signs. Now, one thing to know is that every house and every sign dissolves the energy of the previous house and the previous sign. So fire signs are very take action, just go for it. When you feel inspired and motivated, that's when you do it. And that's like you just naturally do it. And then you have the earth signs, which dissolve that impulsivity, and earth signs are about maintaining things. It's about being practical. It's about doing things that make sense. While a fire sign is more of an extrovert, an earth sign, along with the water sign, is more introverted. Now, again, we're just looking at one area of your chart, so I'm not saying that because you have earth in your rising sign that you're automatically an introvert. It doesn't work that way, but the purpose is really to say that if you have an earth element in your rising sign, you're looking at doing things that require maintenance, practicality, things that make sense. These are like the human-y parts of your chart, where you want to do things that have sustainability, reliability. This is something that might not necessarily come to you naturally, but it's something that you are meant to master. And it's a responsible kind of a placement and stuff. And I've seen some earth signs get kind of discouraged, and they're just like, oh, I wish I could be more fun. I wish I could be more impulsive. I wish I could just take risks and stuff. But that's denying who you are. It's that mindset of the grass is greener on the other side. Don't be worrying about other people's lawns. That has nothing to do with you. Okay, you are here to do things that make sense, that's practical, that's sustainable. And this may not come naturally to people if you have more planets and more activities in other areas of your chart, but it's still something that you are meant to learn, to master, and navigate. So just keep that in mind. It's as you're especially starting things, initiating things, what's going to motivate you to get started on doing something is this sustainable? Can I maintain this? What is the most practical way? Is it logical? How is it going to help me? Do something that is meant to be stable and give yourself that sense of stability and that foundation. That's going to motivate you to get started and to do things. And this is what's going to be healthiest for you. And it's the way to fulfill your karmic purpose as far as what's based on what's indicated in your rising sign. And then you've got an air sign. And an air sign is more of an extrovert. And so it's different from an earth sign, but there's a little bit of a crossover in that both earth and air signs, it's beneficial to do things that are practical, logical, things that make sense. But with air signs, it's important to do it in a way that's collaborative and doing it in a social setting. and stuff. So if you're trying to get started and you're an air sign, when it comes to initiating something, try to do it with other people, involving other people. This can be what motivates you to get started, stuff like that. And when you make moves in the world, do things, try to identify the logic, the practicality. That's what's going to make it sustainable. And it's about like working with your mind more than anything. Whereas like a fire sign is about working things like based on like what motivates you, right? What, like that drive. With an earth sign, it's about, well, what can I maintain? You know, what offers me stability? With an air sign, it's what's logical, what's mentally stimulating, what makes the most amount of sense in that regard and in regards to other people. With a water sign, this is the last element, and so it's the wisest, but it's also the slowest moving energy. And so when it comes to, and similar to an earth sign, they're the introverts, and it's a little bit more faded energy, which isn't to say you still have free will, and there's a lot of other ways to determine whether you have every chart has free will and like a faded like aspects of your chart. But with the water sign, there's more of a journey of like a faded approach and an intention. These oftentimes are people who chose specific, like your soul chose a specific path and wants to make sure that you fulfill it. So it creates a little bit more of like a karmic faded energy to it. So you can use free will and remove yourself from certain situations, but the universe will keep recircling you back and providing you with more opportunities to go and like go back into the energy and the environment that's going to help you fulfill what you're meant to do, whatever that is. So with the water sign, it's very much about learning to trust, and what's going to motivate you to get started is to feel ready, to wait for that internal motivation. It's more about your inner world more than the outer world. So so in order for you to feel like ready, work on feeling comfortable, work on feeling safe. Find the emotional drive, find ways that you can be compassionate, charitable, and help other people, and do things that are inclusive. These are going to be things that's going to help you to really get motivated. And with water signs, you have less of energy than say like a fire sign. So pace yourself. With the water sign, you're not supposed to rush into things. It's best for you to kind of go leisurely, to kind of go a little bit slower and stuff. Like this is going to be the thing that ultimately supports you, unless again you have other indicators in your chart, and this isn't always going to be the case. So if you're frustrated, don't feel bad. It's not like you're going to be stuck there, but your soul wanted to learn to do things at a slower pace, and when you do this, you pick up on more things. You know, it's kind of like if you drive through a street really, really fast versus you're walking and you stop, you're going to pick up on more things. You're going to see things, you know, you're going to absorb more. And that's the energy of a water sign, is do things that like follow your intuition, your emotions, your inner guidance system. Wait until you feel comfortable. And this is so important because we live in a world that says, feel the fear and do it anyways, just do it. And that just doesn't work for water signs. So you have to be honest about that. And we do live in this physical world that has standards and systems, so we do have to participate in it. But with certain things, understand that it's not really about conforming to what works, it's about what's actually sustainable for you. And this is where learning about your rising sign and understanding it better is so important, because so many times, because of the standardized world we live in, people implement things that all the successful people say, you should do this in order to be successful, this is the way, and then people are like, yes, I'm gonna do it. But oftentimes the things that are recommended are for like not every element. And so then people feel bad and they're just like, oh, I'm self-sabotaging, I'm doing something wrong. And it's like, no, you're using a system that's incompatible and isn't designed to support you. So that's like just don't, feel bad about that. You need to learn to just become aware of what your needs are, what's going to work best for you, starting within yourself. So your rising sign really tells you sort of like your core identity. this is really valuable, and it's going to help you in the best way to navigate your life. It's with your physical energy, your energy level, your physical body, and stuff like that. Like, and the more it's so important to work out of your rising sign, unless you have other indicators, because the thing is, your rising sign is what you're meant to master in this lifetime, and it also determines the order of the rest of the zodiac signs. So whatever sign you have here, the next sign tells you in your second house tells you like your relationship with money and the best way for you to make money and all of these different things. But if you're operating from a different part of your chart and it's not the most favorable, then you're sort of misaligned in your life. And so this is where really connecting with your rising sign is so absolutely valuable. And so in addition to your elements, you also want to look at each zodiac sign belongs to a specific element, and there are 3 signs in each element. And then within that, you've got the cardinal, fixed, and mutable signs. So the cardinals are the first element are the first sign of each element. And so this has very initiating energy. Whereas with the fixed sign, you are maintaining that. And then with the mutable sign, you're sort of a combination of that too. You have a little bit more adaptability. So when you understand that, you're able to navigate things more easily. So if you're a fire sign and you're an Aries, you're a cardinal, right? So this is where like you're just supposed to take action because it inspires you. That is the energy that works for you. Okay. And it's really important to honor that. And Aries is it's home to the first house, so it represents newborns. And so it's about just kind of taking off and doing things. And this is why a lot of parents say that you have to watch your newborns because they're unintentionally suicidal. And this is because Aries represents newborns and they belong to the first house. So there's something called the traditional zodiac wheel, and this tells you like each zodiac sign belongs to a specific house. So depending on the time that you were born, the zodiac sign that's in your first house can differ, but Aries still originally belongs to, and its original home is the first house. So the first house, regardless of what sign you have here, is going to have Aries energy there. And so because of that, the 12th house is about the spiritual world. Aries left the spiritual world of the 12th house that's home to Pisces and stuff, and there was no physical distinction. Things weren't corporeal and stuff. So when newborns are born, they don't realize that that they're separate entities from us. They think that they're an extension of themselves. And this is where some of the stereotype of Aries being selfish comes from, is that sometimes they might forget to think about other people outside of themselves, and that's because of that energy. So if that's something that you're struggling with as an Aries rising, whenever you're having some challenges, regardless of what sign you have in your first house or any house, like every sign has positive and negative manifestations. And if you find that you're experiencing the challenges, you want to look at the opposite sign and the opposite house, because it's going to balance that energy out. So in the case of Aries, you've got Libra. Okay, and so Libra is about partnership. It's about thinking about the other person. So with Aries, the best thing is that you just take action. You are a leader, you're inspiring, you lead by example. That's the best. But if you're doing it in such a way that you're disregarding other people, you want to consider operating out of your Libra, out of your 7th house more. This is I'm basing this on the whole house system. Okay, and so it's about just experiencing that. It's like the baby fire sign. And then you've got the fixed sign of the fire sign, which is Leo. And so with the Leo, it is about still taking the risks and stuff like that, but it's also home to the 5th house, and it rules creative intelligence. So Leos are the performers. It represents confidence. It's about deserving the best of things. Leo represents children. These are children who who haven't been like as socially conditioned and aren't feeling insecure about themselves. They're just proud of themselves. That's the energy of Leo, and Leo is a fixed sign of maintaining this. And because it's about maintaining this, when you have a really positive, optimistic, confident Leo that's creative and has unique creative intelligence, You know, like oftentimes people think that Mercury is associated to intelligence, and it is, but it's more of a calculator and analyzer. But true genius, true brilliance, that's represented by your fifth house and your Leo. So this is really telling. And so it's about maintaining this. So when you're at your best, you're at your best. But because it's a fixed energy and Leo represents the king, this is where a Leo can be arrogant and problematic and just be like selfish and disregarding it because they're in that fixed state. And so this is why like sometimes like Leos can hold grudges more, because it's a fixed energy. The fixed signs have more of a predisposition to do that. But don't worry, there's still ways that you can look at your chart to let things go. The 8th house of reversals, your 12th house of letting things go, your Neptune, your Pisces, things like that. So it's not like you're stuck there, but there's definitely this theme with fixed signs that experience that. And then you've got Sagittarius, which is the mutable fire sign. And so the mutable signs are the last element of whatever element that they belong to. So they've got the energy of the cardinal sign that can initiate, but it's got that fixed energy. It can access that consistency and that reliability if it wants to. But mutable is also a little bit more of like a lazier, more adaptable sign, less lazy in a fire sign, because fire signs are hardworking, but it's the one that's like, it's not like an Aries that goes hard. You get what I'm saying? Like it's not like that. And so when you're looking at a Sagittarius fire sign, it's this different energy. Like Aries is about them, right? Leo is the king. It's ruling over a kingdom. Okay, and then Sagittarius is the most humanitarian sign, and it's represented by a centaur that's half human, half horse and stuff. So it's got the higher intelligence of a human and the primal instincts of an animal. So it's got that fiery instinct, but it's got that desire to want to elevate society. And because it's physically taller, it sees the higher perspective of things. And the Sagittarius has a bow and arrow, and so it uses that to set goals. But it's from far away distances, so it doesn't necessarily do details and stuff, but it's really inspiring as a leader and stuff. And they're just like, people are drawn to them. They're very optimistic. They see the higher purpose of things. That's the energy of Sagittarius. And so, you know, when you have these placements with Aries, you want to take action. You want to go for it. With Leo, you want to tap into your creative intelligence, your genius, do things differently. You want to put yourself in the spotlight, feeling confident. That's what's going to motivate you. With Sagittarius, you want to do things where you see the higher perspective. You are collaborating with other people. What's going to motivate you is how is this going to elevate society? How is this going to help other people? Find the philosophical, spiritual meaning and value behind it. That's going to be what gets you to get started, make it fun, go on add adventures and stuff. That's going to be what really helps you. Now, with earth signs, you've got Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, right? So Taurus is a fixed sign, and so the cardinal sign in an earth sign, you've got Capricorn there. Okay, then you've got the fixed sign Taurus, and then you've got the mutable sign Virgo. And so again, the cardinal signs are the ones that initiate. Okay, so you've got Capricorn energy. It's an earth sign. It's related to your profession, your success, your goals, things like that. And it's about doing things that are strategic. What's going to motivate you is what's going to pick things that are success oriented. You have to work hard because it's ruled by Saturn. You're going to want to take that initiative and do things, create structures, systems, delegate, look at where can I show up as a leader? Where can I work hard? What is the end game? What is the success that I want? You know, and this is outside the scope of this video. I'll dedicate a specific video specifically for Capricorn where I talk about the different evolution, whether you're more of a traditional Capricorn or a modern Capricorn, and where you are in your journey and stuff like that. But overall, you know, even if you're not professionally oriented, if you're a Capricorn rising, it may take you longer to grow into that because Saturn rules older people. But ultimately, you're here to learn to be strategic, successful, and to have professional accomplishments. And so that's the energy that even if you don't resonate with it right now, that's something to know that you're meant to grow into. And with a fixed sign with Taurus, it's about maintaining that energy. And when you have your rising sign with Taurus, it's a little bit harder to get started because even with a Leo, it's a fixed sign, but it's a fire sign, and fire signs get motivated. Taurus is the most fixed sign in your chart because it's an earth sign, it's a fixed sign. There's a risk of getting stagnant. It's really hard to get started. So, because the first house is about initiating things in Taurus, like whatever it maintains it. So wherever Taurus is in your chart, the energy moves the slowest. So it can be a little bit harder when you have Taurus here. Some of the things that are going to help you is to find something that you can maintain for an extended period of time that makes sense. Do something that is indulgent, something that engages with your five senses, make sure that you feel comfortable, wear nice clothes, use perfumes and scents that feel good for you, use music and things that physically stimulate you. But you can also look at where your sun and your moon is, and you can turn that into your first house. If you find that you're just stuck and you can't get started and stuff, you can kind of initiate in other parts of your chart, which is outside of the scope of this video. But if it's something that you want me to talk about more, comment and let me know so that I can make a video on that. But really with the Taurus sign, just understand that the energy is going to move this slower for you, and you have to be patient with yourself and be selective and careful about what you initiate, because whatever you initiate, you're likely to maintain it for an extended period of time. And then you've got the mutable Virgo sign, and with the Virgo, it's about making corrections. And so it has the initiative energy of Capricorn in that it wants to, like the best way for Virgo to want to initiate is think about, how can I be of service? How can I support people in a way that's practical, measurable, tangible? These are things that are really important. In my apartment, virtually every concierge is a Virgo rising, which makes perfect sense because it's very much about being very organized, very strategic, really practical, being supportive. They have all these administrative duties, all of these policies, all of these people that they have to help. And people get upset and they've got to resolve issues and problems. And I live in a skyriser, so it's 20 floors of a lot of people that they have to deal with. And they're very supportive. So as a Virgo, if you have your rising sign here, think about how you can be supportive, how you want to participate, and work on making corrections. When you have, well, I don't want to get into it too much, but with Virgo, it's about making improvements. And doing that is going to be what motivates you. And it's important to not be critical with yourself, but which is something that you can get into, and that'll be for a separate video. I don't want to make this too long. It's probably going to be, to tell you the truth. But with the Virgo, if this is your rising sign, just know that you're meant to learn in this lifetime how to be practical, how to plan things, how to do things that make sense, and be supportive. And within yourself and with other people, you have to let go of the whole, for the most part, unless you have other indicators in your chart of just I'm just going to go with the flow and I'm just going to see what happens, which by the way is going to be another video. I just haven't figured out the title of it. I get really irritated when people say, I'm just going with the flow, and they're being flaky. It's literally going with the flow. That's lunar energy. There are a bunch of moon phases and stuff. So if you are going with the flow, that's actually very cyclical, very strategic, in a very intuitive, elaborate, detailed sort of a way. It's a very different energy. But with Virgo, you want to do things that are consistent. You want to maintain your habits and stuff. You might have indicators where you have to switch it up and you have to make different considerations and whatnot, especially if, for example, I don't know, you have Uranus in your 6th house or something to that effect. You're going to, well, I mean, yeah, but anyways, the point is, you might have things that change up the energy, but you're supposed to learn practicality. And now let's take a look at with air signs. You've got Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. Aquarius is fixed. Okay, so Libra is the cardinal sign. So with Libras, it's really interesting because they're associated with being indecisive. And yet, because they're a cardinal sign, when they make a decision, it might take time for them to make a decision, but you're going to get started, you're going to do it. So that's that energy that you have to learn to master. So if you're a Libra rising, you, in this incarnation, you're focused on partnership and harmonizing things and working in collaborating in work environments and restoring harmony and learning to be sort of a peacekeeper. You might be very aesthetically oriented, and it's about organizing things. Like it's an air sign, so it's very intelligent and social, but it's also very refined because it's ruled by Venus. And Taurus is also ruled by Venus, but Taurus it comes before Libra, so it's more of like the natural, like nature Venus. It's like bushes and trees and gardens, but like Libra is more like floral arrangements. It's a little bit more like refined, and you do a little bit more with it. There's like an air of sophistication to it. And so if you're a Libra rising, it's important to find harmony, to master kind of interacting with people in a way that has a balancing act. And if you have a hard time making a decision, talk about it with someone one-on-one, someone who is intelligent, someone who has this harmonizing, clarifying quality for you. This is going to be something that helps you. And then you have Libra's cardinal. Okay, Aquarius is the fixed air sign, and then you've got Gemini, which is the mutable sign. So actually, I want to kind of go rearrange it in order. Gemini is the most mutable sign because it's an air sign and it's a mutable sign, and it's the first air sign that shows up. It's home to the third house and stuff, so it represents toddlers. And this is why like Geminis get this reputation of being unreliable, or not having follow through, but also being really fun because they represent toddlers. And so they're really like inquisitive, they're learning, like their mind's being stimulated for the first time. It's the first air sign and everything is fun and exciting and stuff like that. So it's a very like brainstorming energy. It's not necessarily the one that gets things done and completes things. And that isn't to say like, like there's ways to get it done, and I'm definitely going to get into that. There are ways in ancient astrology with like operating with like the different twins that teach you how to connect to one twin over another twin in order to be able to finish things. But with Gemini, the energy is really about exploring. So if you're a Gemini rising, you want to collaborate, you want to connect, you might have more of like an inclination to be an actor or start your own business and stuff, because Gemini is about natural talents. A lot of actors have natural talents, and it's also it's about self-made wealth and businesses. So it can be about doing creative, fun projects and stuff like that. And as a Gemini, what's going to motivate you to get started is something that mentally stimulates you, that interests you, that's fun and stuff like that. Like I feel like it's kind of similar to like a fire sign. I mean, with Aries, where it's like you're just naturally like you're going to be motivated. It's just going to happen. So that's a fun energy, unless you have other indicators that sort of change that. And then you've got Gemini, which is just kind of learning to connect with that intellectual energy. And then you've got Libra, which is the next air sign, and it's about one-on-one connections. And it's that like individual, like intimate kind of a connection. And then you've got the Aquarius, which is big energy. It's about large groups of people, internet, society, everyday people, and stuff like that. So while Gemini is very like, it's not really like judgy, it's a toddler. It's, before you get like conditioned and stuff like that. So it's just very open. And then you've got Libra, which is a little bit more selective and stuff. And then you've got Aquarius, who's very inclusive and open-minded, all about diversity and fairness for everyone. And it's an air sign. And so it wants to do things that is inclusive of everyone and supports and elevates society. So if you have Aquarius in your rising sign, your journey is like, it's going to involve connecting with other people, whether you feel comfortable with this or not, and helping society, helping large groups of people. You might be more technologically inclined. It rules scientists and stuff. So what will motivate you to get started if you're feeling kind of stuck is to think about how it's going to elevate society. Join a group. doing something like that. Do something that's practical and makes sense. But Aquarius is a fixed sign, but it's not as fixed as other signs in that it's ruled by Saturn, which is a very consistent, slow-moving sign, but it's also ruled by Uranus, which causes reversals, and it can be very like spontaneous, and sometimes it'll destroy things that no longer serves you, like the structures that Saturn puts in place. And so there are ways to work with that energy. And in ancient astrology, before Uranus was discovered, they used K2 or the South Node as Aquarius's other rulers to account for its individuality and its uniqueness. And that's the other thing I wanted to mention. What's also going to motivate you to start doing something is to be different, to do something that's innovative and stuff that makes you stand out, do something that's kind of funky, that honors your individuality, your uniqueness. Be the weirdo badass that you are. That's going to be something that helps you to stay motivated and get started. And then we've got our water signs. So we've got Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. So Cancer is the first water sign. It's the baby sign. It's the cardinal. And with Cancer, it's an interesting energy because water signs are more passive and stuff, but Cancers can be really aggressive, and it's because it's that cardinal sign. And it also represents motherhood. And so think like mama bear, right? Like it can be really nurturing, but you have to remember that it's represented by a crab that has a hard exterior and is soft on the inside. The US is a Cancer sun sign, and we have a strong military force. It could be highly defensive. It could be very nurturing. The energy really does fluctuate. And so if you're a Cancer rising, you have like this impulsive need to want to like do shit right away because of that cardinal energy. But as a water sign, you're supposed to kind of hold back. And it's something that I understand because like I have a lot of water placements, and it's so funny because so many people are like, you're not a water sign at all. You don't seem like it. I took a palmistry class, and when we were looking at like the elements in my hands, I was like, excuse me, my hand doesn't match any of those. And they were like, you're a fire sign pretending to be a water sign. And literally, it's like my parents didn't honor like their journey, so I inherited all of this water placement. So I've got this like internalized fiery energy, which not every Cancer is going to have, but it's something that I'm intimately aware of, where literally like you have like this desire to want to get started right away, but you're supposed to hold back. So it's like Cancer signs are supposed to practice patience for that reason. You're ruled by the moon, which has different fluctuations, different phases of the moon. Like it takes a while before, you go through like the moon takes 28 days to go through like its full cycle. And so with Cancer signs, you're supposed to kind of learn to practice patience. But what's going to motivate you to get started is wait till you're comfortable. Fuck that whole like feel the fear and do it anyways and da-da-da-da-da. That's not sustainable to you. You can do that, but it's not your journey. And again, it's not sustainable. It's going to be very glitchy. Honor your process. That's going to be so important. And you're going to experience fluctuations in your life. And so don't feel like you're a failure because you're doing all these different things and then shit just hits the fan and stuff, because literally you're living your soul's purpose. You're meant to do that in order to learn and grow in your soul's evolution. And with the Scorpio, you're a fixed water sign. And so it's a very fiery water placement because it's ruled by Mars. And so with Scorpios, there's this experience and this exposure of trauma exposure, trauma processing, trauma healing. And so it's important to not get into a trauma loop because Scorpio is a fixed sign and stuff. But part of your journey is to experience a certain level of this for your journey and to learn to work through it, to move through it. Using astrology, using psychology and stuff to motivate you is going to get started. Using deep research and being strategic. These are going to be the things that motivate you to take action. And then you've got Pisces. Pisces is the most receptive sign. It's the last sign. It belongs originally to the 12th house. It's a water sign. It's a mutable sign, and it's the most spiritual sign. So if you're a Pisces rising, this is statistically the least likely rising sign you're going to have, because out of all of the signs and stuff, like, you have like the shortest amount of time to be able to be a Pisces rising. And I personally believe the universe arranged it this way because a Pisces sign is it's the most evolved and advanced rising sign, because it's the last sign. It embodies all of the zodiac signs. It's a spiritual sign. It's a vulnerable sign. It doesn't have it's represented by fish that can't speak, arms that doesn't protect itself, legs that it doesn't have legs to run away. But it doesn't mean that Pisces can't talk. Of course you can talk. You know, there's Mercury, you've got your 3rd house, your 5th house. You know, there's all these different ways to express yourself, your sun sign, Gemini, Virgo. I mean, you have tons and tons of support. But with Pisces, it's about what you're meant to do in this lifetime is to surrender control. It's the least egotistical sign. And so what's going to be successful for you is to learn to trust. And if you have Pisces in your rising sign, it is so important for you to have spirituality as part of your life, because if you don't have spirituality in your life, it's going to be really difficult. It's important to remember that we're spiritual beings here to have a human experience. And specifically for Pisces, you're the most spiritual. So if you don't have spirituality in a physical world, you're literally largely absent of what you need in order to thrive. So with the Pisces, like, incorporate spirituality, make sure that you feel good and safe before you get started on things, and trust your intuition. Develop and cultivate your intuition. You want to be really careful in looking at your chart, making sure, like, not everyone's chart is going to show that like their intuition is reliable and stuff, but there are ways to redirect that energy if that applies to you. But particularly as a Pisces, you're meant to learn to trust, to allow yourself to be supported, engage in things that are charitable, spiritual, compassionate, and you might be here to practice boundaries and to teach people about being accepted and learning to be loving and stuff, but also making sure that you're not going to get trampled over because of it. So these are going to be the different ways that your energy shows up. And this is why your rising sign is so absolutely important, because once you realize, okay, like, what's my rising sign? What element do I have? And what does that represent? Am I supposed to just initiate like a fire sign? Earth sign, I'm going to maintain things. Air sign, I do things that are logical and collaborative. Water signs, I'm supposed to go based on my inner guidance system, learn to trust and recognize that I'm on a different timeline. And if it's a cardinal, you're going to be more of an initiator. You're going to start things more. And if you're not going to maintain it or finish it, make sure that you have other people in your life that can do that. So if you have strong cardinal in your chart, know that, like, okay, well, I want to look to other people to maintain things and to finish things off. So especially if you have strong cardinal, you have to learn to trust. You have to learn to delegate. This is important for everyone, but especially if you're a cardinal, because how else are you going to follow through on things? You know, and so that's something that's really important, and it's something that I don't hear enough astrologers talk about, and it's something that really irritates me, because a lot of even astrologers are like, you have to finish, you have to do it this way, it's the only way, if you don't do this then you're gonna fail. And it's like, no, actually collaborate and delegate. This is the way that that's where you can bridge that gap. And when you do that, you're also helping other people who want to support you, who innately want to do these things, but don't know unless you reach out and you ask for them. So that's something that's really important. If you're a fixed sign, then you know that you're here to maintain things and stuff, but you might have a harder time letting things go. So looking at where your mutable placements are is really good. Looking at where your cardinal placements are in order to get started and initiate if you're having a hard time doing it from your fixed sign rising placements. And if you're a mutable sign, you have sort of that adaptability and stuff. And with like Virgo, there's more like this consistency and this reliability. But if you're like a Pisces, you know, you might be a little bit more flaky and stuff like that. So finding ways to create stabilities and boundaries by looking at like your sun, your Saturn, or other parts of your chart that offer more stability, consistency, and reliability to support you is going to be something that's really helpful. And if it's hard for you to initiate something, then look to other people that can really help you with that. So this is going to be like a really valuable way, because oftentimes I think we know what works for us, because when I tell people this, they're like, oh, that makes sense because, and they have their own personal anecdotes that validate and confirm what I'm saying. But it's just so easy with content pollution, with social conditioning, with distraction to kind of forget. So just remember that this is your baseline, okay? Like, think of your natal chart as like your nature, and like the transits, your progress charts, your other charts as like your environment, nature versus environment. So what I've described, this is your nature of like your physical body, the best way for you to navigate your life, your karmic purpose, your things like that. What's going to initiate, what's the environment and the circumstance that's going to help you to initiate and get started on things. But also understand that you're going to have other factors, and this isn't always going to work because life happens, there's unpredictability and whatnot. But understand that this is still your baseline. And by understanding this, if you realize, things are a little different, I wonder why, you can be like, is there anything transiting my first house right now? Any planets that are influencing it? Or the planet that rules my first house, is it being influenced by other planets? Or do I need to revise my plans by looking at my sixth house? Or, there's different things that you can do to work with it. But when you understand that baseline, it's extremely valuable. So go ahead and check that out. I hope that this video has been helpful. If you have any questions or there are any specific videos that you want me to create, please let me know. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.